And Justin, I'm asking you to answer this first. As we look at communication, we use communication to make meaning. Make sense? To make meaning. So, in what ways? This is pretty general. But just get us going here. In what ways do you see technology being used through the means of communication to make meaning? Pretty broad, pretty general. What we saw.
Yeah. So what I'd say is technology starts out as the tool, right? So I've got a message. I need you to have it. So I need to get it to you in some way. Now, if I'm not with you, I need to go through a different avenue. So whether that's, a long time ago, that could be a letter, that could be spoken word in some sort of performance, that could be, now it could be email, Twitter, phone call, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I need to get some communication with you. I need to make some meaning between us. I need you to understand what I'm saying and then learn back from you. But what we find is what the technology that we create to be able to craft message also then shapes our message. So we use the tool to communicate. Then the tool changes how we communicate, it changes what we communicate, and it also changes how we interpret the messages that we receive. Does that land with you guys? So we create it creates us, it changes how we think.
That's good. That's good. And it happens subtly. Incredibly subtly. There's a new technology. We use that to communicate something that we want to communicate, and that in turn creates it, and in turn essentially creates a culture. You want to speak back on?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I was thinking about was, how many times have you said, how have I lived before without a cell phone? Most of you guys, that's like, you're young enough, that's been like since birth. But I don't remember when hardly anyone had cell phones, and I remember the kid down the street, his mom had one, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I remember playing Snake on my phone. Yeah, it was huge. Yeah, it was a car phone, actually. Yeah. So that question we ask ourselves, yes, how do we live before the internet? How do we live before a cell phone? Like that question 10 years ago wasn't even on people's minds. And so that's kind of just an example of how technology is kind of shaping the way we do things, kind of the way we communicate, and even the way we live.
So here's a quote that says, we shape our tools, and then afterward our tools shape us. Right, speaking of that, we shape our tools. First we shape our tools. So Justin and I already kind of created the framework and the foundation for that. So I've got something I need to say, and so I'm going to create a tool so I can communicate that to you, but afterward, those tools end up shaping us. You want to say something about that?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think also going back a little bit to help define that a little better, in addition to technology being used as a means to communicate or to create meaning, it's also in parallel to that used as a means to convey understanding, and to allow someone to understand what you mean through that. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not just to create meaning, and it doesn't just shape what you're conveying, but it also helps transfer understanding. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, I think when you come up with a new technology like Twitter, to answer your question is how does that shape us after we come up with a technology or a means of communication? Twitter shapes the way we communicate. It's not anymore, we don't communicate with a novel, we communicate in short 140 character little transmissions. And so that economy of words shapes how we then communicate, and shapes how we think about what we're going to communicate. And so, that is one example. Facebook is another example. How are we going to communicate in this broader audience? Or a blog entry. How do we convey media in a short amount of space? And so I think those technologies that we've created shape not only how we communicate, but they shape how we think about what we're going to communicate. So they kind of change our thought processes, and so we have to translate that into understanding for other people.
That's good. Want to speak on a couple of them? That's it.
Sure. I'd say the same thing as far as how it does shape us. I think technology is good, and specifically Twitter, I know, hop onto it about a year and a half ago, and the way it's even shaped the way that I speak whenever I'm talking in front of a group of people, of how if I want them to remember, I've got to say something short and to the point, that 140 characters or less, that someone's going to be able to remember and write down, and possibly even tweet, put a Twitter out of it. And so I think it definitely shapes the way we communicate. And part of that is whenever we're all on that same technology, it almost gives us a very similar way to communicate, which I think is a positive side of it, where if we're all using Twitter, we've got a similar way of communicating, a similar way of taking in information. So it's not necessarily all bad, but
that's good. And and we can begin to branch off in so many different directions here. Let me branch off in what you said real quick with the Compass. We all begin to communicate in similar fashions. Then is what the Compass essentially just ended up saying. So there's this guy named Marshall McLuhan. He was this communications theorist, and so he was really, he was into philosophy. He spoke 7 languages fluently. He's from Canada, which he may be the only cool Canadian ever outside Steve Nash. And so, and potentially by cool I mean normal. And so, besides, but what Marshall really brought up, what he really began to streamline and bring to the forefront for us was that the medium was the medium. So the thing that we use to communicate, essentially that is the message. And without really having to get into much definition there, the reason I bring that up is because he also points to global village term. That all of a sudden now, as we're getting late into this generation, as we're getting into the image generation, as we're getting into the Google generation, the global village, this massive global village, we're beginning to incorporate and participate in the same ways. And we're beginning to use the same tools to communicate in the same ways. And so all of a sudden this technology has allowed this global village to participate on a very streamlined version. What do you think about that?
Even beyond global, just talking to my mom is a little easier. She's on Facebook. Or before to call her up and have awkward conversations would be difficult. We can communicate in similar ways across generational lines, across continents, and different cultures as well.
Yeah.
And I think also that kind of homogenization of how we communicate, it comes
almost something.
Right. Right. And so I think that since that's the case, there are great benefits. It's easier to communicate with your mom. It's easier, and so there are tons of benefits. But it also serves to water down our communication because we no longer have to be as creative in how we communicate something because we just tweet it, and everybody gets it and everybody understands what we mean. And so it reduces the creativity that we have to have or how we, it reduces the number of choices we have in how we communicate something. So it comes at a payoff as well.
Let me push back on that though real quick.
Cool.
Because technology, any sort of tool, is ethically, morally, right and wrongedly neutral. Right? Now, you could get into weapons and those, but media technology is ethically neutral. It in and of itself is neither good nor bad, but the way that you use it can be good or bad. So if you can in 140 characters create and craft meaning, then it's good. If you're telling me that you had waffles for breakfast, I don't care, right? And a lot, those of you that I know and follow on Twitter, sometimes you do tell me that. Stuff like that, or you tell me how awesome your girlfriend is, which is good. That's kind of for you and her, but I'm included. Thank you, both of you. So the more interesting thing there, and going back to what you said about the medium becoming, or the message being co-opted by the medium, the medium becoming the message. That's a statement I think about truth, whether truth exists. If truth can be changed, if the essence of truth can be changed by how we communicate it, then we have a big problem. So, I just want to throw that. I don't know if that's helpful. Maybe that's harmful to you guys, but
No, that's real helpful. So let's go down that path because we just heard creativity, and then we just heard this truth. So if I'm in the process of making meaning based on what's being communicated to me, so I'm being arrested. So we hear anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 messages or advertisements a day based on how much time we spend on the internet, based on how much time we spend in front of the television. From the time we lay our head on our pillow at night, we're going to get 1,000 to 3,000 advertisements a day. And so with that, some of them are incredibly creative, and others are not creative at all. But in the process of trying to make meaning, some of them are truthful, and some of them aren't truthful at all. And we're using the medium, and it's changing the truth behind the message. And if we're not careful as followers of Christ, is it potentially perhaps that we're selling a counterfeit gospel? Based on the medium that we're using, based on the tools that we're using, in the name of communication, in the name of technology, is it changing the message so much that it's no longer truly the gospel? But yet we've chalked it up to either being relevant or we've chalked it up to being creative. What's your thoughts on that?
I think to Justin's point, technology is neutral and they're all just tools. And so if you look at any specific piece of technology, it's a tool in order to convey that understanding, in order to add meaning and convey meaning to people. And so I don't know that technology in and of itself waters it down. I think the only using technology or using limited fashions of communication can water down the gospel. I think that technology have to be used as tools in addition to one-on-one interaction, you know, conveying through your lives, things like that, in addition to the tools that make it easier to convey snippets of truth.
Okay, so the blog is one of the things that's on the internet right now that is an incredible way to either communicate, an incredible way for people to make meaning, but to either communicate truth or not communicate truth. So you're in this world of blogging, the blogosphere. What, you know, speaking to that, because, I mean, based on what Bryce is saying, that's a tool, and you're a gross that's what you do for a living. What do you see?
Well, I think the biggest thing right now is